So we are going to record this. Attendees are not visible, but you should have the ability to ask a question in the chat. We wanted to let you know that we are going to have the presentation on active shooter training, run, hide, fight. And if you have a question, then enter it in the chat. We have a couple folks who are going to be trying to review the chat, and we'll either answer the question as we go or we'll circle back. If for some reason we do not answer your question, you can either email me, and I'm going to put my email in the chat, or you can ask your principal, the principal of your school, because all of the principals are familiar with this training and they'll know the details of their school site. So we're going to start with introductions. I'm Nikki Wesley. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. And we also have, I will, effective January 1, be your new superintendent. So I'm excited about that. Dr. Wilds.
Hey everybody, I'm Susan Wilds. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services.
Well, Susan, can you speak up just a little?
Sure, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. My name is Susan Wilds. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, and I will also put my email in the chat if you have any questions.
Great. And then we have our two school resource officers.
Hi there, I'm Jenna Wolfinger. I'm School Resource Officer, and this is my partner, Rex Yap.
Officer Rex Yap, Redondo Beach PD, School Resource Officer for the Redondo Beach Unified School District.
All right, and of course, our two officers will jump in and give more information as we go, and sometimes I'll prompt them and ask them to give a little bit more information. So thank you for attending our active shooter presentation. This is for our parents and community members who are interested. We've had 3 other in-person presentations. We are recording this and we plan to post this on our website. So if you know of anyone who's unable to attend, they can watch the recording. Want to share that this presentation that you are going to see tonight is a presentation that we are using to train our school staff and our teachers, because the teachers will be the ones to give the training to their students. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So we are sharing with you the presentation that the teachers will have and will use to train their students. There are 3 different trainings. They're age appropriate. It's based on, there's 4 different trainings. It's based on the student's grade level. And we will tell you a little bit more about that as we go. For tonight, I'm going to use the middle school training because it's a good in-between between the elementary and the high school, and I'll point out some of the differences. We also want you to know that prior to your student engaging in training, your principal will mail you a letter explaining when the training is going to take place, who's going to give the training. Again, it should be your child's teacher, the middle school and the high school. They have a plan of who that will be. And they will send you a PDF of the training so you have an opportunity to look it over and ask any questions prior to, or go over it with your student after they have the training, but we will keep parents informed of when those trainings are occurring. So I'm going to share my screen for the middle school. Okay, can you see the PowerPoint? Okay, great. Then this is the middle school PowerPoint, so I'm going to expand it and put it in presentation mode. Okay. So at this time, I can't see the chat, so if our participants see anything in the chat that you want to interrupt and jump in, please do. Otherwise, I will continue with the training, and of course, participants can also chime in. Again, this is our middle school training. The first few slides are to provide information to our parents and our staff, and then we'll get to the actual training. So the first slide is just really about, well, why do we do drills? We have several safety drills. As a matter of fact, next Thursday, we're going to be doing our Great Shakeout, our earthquake drill. We practice fire drills. We practice a shelter in place and lockdown drills. And we do these drills because we know that they will better prepare our students and staff if there's an emergency. We're very lucky to have a strong partnership with RBPD. Not all school districts have that strong partnership. We see our district as forward thinking. And so we rolled out this active shooter drill actually for the first time in 2017. And it was a little bit contentious when we rolled it out because it was something that was new, and there were some stakeholders who didn't feel as though we needed this training. But unfortunately, when you see things on the news and you read things in articles, I think many people would agree that these incidents are occurring more often than we would like. We hope that they would never occur, and that we really do need to come up with a plan, make both students and staff aware of that plan, so that should there be an unfortunate situation with an active shooter or threat on campus, everybody knows how to respond. I like to show this slide just in doing some research because I want to share that you can read the caption, but back when this fire occurred and many students and staff members were killed, they did not have fire drills. And when they went to implement fire drills and other safety protocols after this fire, there was an outroar, and there were people who didn't feel like it was necessary. It was a waste of instructional time. But as many of you know today, we have fire drills regularly. As a matter of fact, it's Ed Code that we practice fire drills. And so just drawing upon analogy in terms of active shooter drills, our goal is again to have a plan, share that with our students, and have drills so that, like a fire drill, they know what the plan is and they're less likely to panic and respond in a calm and effective manner when an emergency occurs on campus. We know that that may not necessarily be the case. Who knows how people respond, but we hope with practice and awareness that will be the result. This is a fun slide because essentially in our nation and in our state, we practice drills. And somebody asked the other night, do we practice tornado drills? And no, we don't practice tornado drills. But the point of this is just to share that there are safety drills all over our state and country. And as a school district, we practice several different types of drills, including the shakeout next week. Here's our plan. If you are the parent of a kinder through third grader, we do not discuss active shooters or intruders. We don't discuss run, hide, fight. We don't believe it's age appropriate for them. However, their teachers, and it's actually TK, starting TK, their teachers teach them more about the ways in which to listen to the teacher, follow directions, remain calm, walking in a line, etc. So they practice remaining quiet and being calm. And so that is a separate plan. And again, your principal will email it to you prior to your students having this training at least a week in advance. Grades 4 through 8, that's the training you're going to see today, is run, hide, distract. We don't mention shooter or fight in the training, but we do show them a video, which you will see at the end of this presentation, that does reference an active shooter and fight. So we'll see more about that. And then for the high school level, they have the middle school training, but with a few more slides about preparing for an active shooter. And we do use the word fight as an option in the high school version, and want to share that in the middle school, the advisory teachers will be given the training during the advisement period, and in high school, your child's third or fourth period teacher will give it during silent study hall, SSH, and that will occur likely before the Thanksgiving or winter break. Here's our approximate timeline. Right now, when I say we, that includes myself and our 2 school resource officers, are going to each school and giving the training to our staff. We've been actually at 3 schools this week. And so our goal is to be able to train all of the staff members before Thanksgiving. There's a couple schools after, but that's where we are right now. As I shared earlier, we originally started this training in 2017. We did a reboot training in 2018, and then during COVID, we didn't discuss or practice the training. So what we're doing now is considered another reboot, a 2022-23 reboot training. There are several staff members who've had this training, but we've hired new staff members as well as students. There's several students who've had this training, and then there's new students. So we're rebooting. After the training of all staff members, and teachers will then train in their classrooms, and I explained when those trainings will occur. And then the idea is after the training to have a practice in fall or spring. Essentially, the practice consists of hiding, locking down, having discussions with students about what that looks like. Remember, classrooms are different, schools are different, and so they're going to have a different experience and some different conversations. Also, it could be the teacher doing what we called, they're not going to practice running, but doing a walkabout where they can take their class and say, okay, guys, where are the closest gates that we would run to or run out of? Where's the entrance? Where's the exit? Where could you hide? So that's what we mean by practice. Here's the actual training that the students now begin to see when they are engaging in the training with their teachers. The teacher will start off by sharing that it is our goal to make sure all students and staff feel safe and that schools are safe. We want students to have a healthy experience, and we want them to be ready and prepared should an emergency occur, whether that be an earthquake, again, a fire, a threat outside the campus, that's when we shelter in place, and a threat on the campus is when we lock down. The goals of the training are so that students understand when they know when to run. What does that look like? It could be, there could be some chaos, but the whole idea of this training is to minimize the chaos. To understand what it means to hide quietly and the importance of that, and also, if necessary, ways in which both the staff member and the students can distract the intruder. We're going to talk about why it's important to train with students. We're going to discuss what that could possibly look like in terms of their own personal reactions and maybe how to work through the fear that they're experiencing so they can respond in a way that's going to be effective. What does it mean to run? What does that look like? Hide, distract, etc. And what happens when the police arrive and how should they react to that? So this slide, the teachers will go through with the students about just a discussion on how they may possibly feel in a situation when they are faced with danger. They are faced with fear, anxiety, a situation that they're not accustomed to. As adults, we can rationalize and kind of think through our reactions. We've had a longer life experience, and sometimes students aren't familiar with their feelings and their reactions. So really just talking them through about what they could possibly feel if there was an intruder on campus or if they knew a threat was happening somewhere on campus. These are some of the ways that they may feel, and kind of thinking through a situation where they may have been scared. Are they going to freeze up? Are they going to scream? Are they going to just try to run? So by understanding how we feel, we can try to think through what are ways we can calm ourselves as well so that we can get through the situation as effective as possible. That's the purpose of that slide. The purpose of this slide is really just to help students understand that we're going to train, we're going to practice, we're going to talk about our plan so that if a situation were to occur, you will do the things in the left side of the column. Be prepared, listen, be focused, and you won't do things on the right side of the column, which is panic, run chaotically, or just pretend like nothing has happened. Because we know the more that we train, the more likely students will be calm and staff will be calm, the more likely they'll respond, the more likely they will be safe. Absence of a plan could lead to all types of negative outcomes. We want to avoid that. This is why we practice drills every year. We know that by practicing and repeating activities, students are more likely to respond effectively. And we've asked teachers on this slide to have students think about that. For instance, if you are giving a speech in class, you're going to do a much better job if you practice that in front of your friends and family than showing up and giving the speech cold. We oftentimes practice before we do something. And this is just another example of why it's important to practice. You could be on a sports team, you practice. You could be in a play and practice. You could have an instrument, a recital. You're going to be much better and know how to use, read the notes, etc., in a more of a rote manner if you practice. And here again is the drills are also a part of that. So this slide right here is in the middle school and high school slide. It's not in the grades 4 through 5 slide, we find that students, they're curious, want to know, well, why would anyone ever want to do that? Why would anyone want to harm somebody else? And which is a rational question and thought. And so the FBI actually did a study, and they between 2000 and 2019, and they researched all of the active shooter situations in our country, whether they occurred at public places, malls, theaters, churches, schools, and they were able to come up with some findings, and they were able to determine some key commonalities. And one of the commonalities was that in the majority of these situations, somebody knew or had they saw a posting on a social media website, or they were told, or they had some clue that the shooting was going to occur. So the purpose of this slide is really to have students understand that anybody could make a threat to our campus, and it's really important that if they see anything online, if they hear anything, they need to report that to a teacher, to the administration, to you parents, and the parents report it to us. But that we cannot take any kind of threat lightly, and that we will look into any and all information that we receive that could result in a possible harm to our students in our school. So that's the intent of this slide, is to help students understand they see something, they need to say something, and that it's important for them to report that. And that has happened, and we've successfully looked into situations. Sometimes we have to call our school resource officers. They do home visits, or we call, whatever we need to do to ensure that a threat will not occur on campus. We will intervene. I'm not sure if any panelists want to add to that, but that's an important part of this slide. The other key component of this training is for students to understand that what we're teaching them can be replicated and utilized in any setting. Again, when we look at the study, you can see that unfortunately active shooter situations occur outside of schools as well. And we want students to know that no matter where they are, if they are aware of what's going on and they pay attention, the first thing that they should do, the key thing, is to run as far away from the threat as possible. And if they're not able to run as far away from the threat as possible, they should hide in a place that will conceal them and protect them from harm. So try to find what that location is. And worst case scenario, they should try to distract the intruder or fight and have a survivor's mentality. So this is the purpose of this slide, to really think through all these scenarios. The other thing we want students to be aware is that while we're training teachers and we come up with these plans about what happens and we're in the classroom, where are we going to go, we're also very much aware that something could happen during unstructured time, like before school, after school, lunch, snack. And when you don't have your teacher there, we still want students to be able to think through, okay, I better run. Where can I go? Or where can I hide? And so we have these conversations with them as well. And I am a parent of a 7th grade student in the middle school. And even when I take her to a restaurant or take her to a theater, just quick little, hey, did you notice the exits? It's just something that we should be aware of, just in case. You never know. And if we have any questions, just jump in. I can't see the chat.
No questions yet, Dr. Wesley.
Okay, all right. So this is a slide that's in the middle school through high school. It's not in the elementary, but essentially it's just to transition us to the 3 options should there be an active shooter on campus. I do want to share that in preparing for this training, I had read that this came about with the Sandy Hook shooting. And what the FBI did is when they investigated, they realized that the response was to go into a setting and hunker down and hide. And some of the classrooms weren't even locked because they just ran in and hid. And I remembered growing up, and I know just in doing this, a lot of parents may remember growing up that when there was you probably did drills, and we all learned to lock down, shut the door, have a lockdown. never did we think about running or getting away from the threat. But after Sandy Hook, the FBI, the Department of Justice told FBI, we need to come up with another plan other than just lockdown. So that's how they developed Run, Hide, Fight. And then they pushed it out to all of the police departments. And at the time, 2017, our chief, Keith Kaufman, you may recall, again, progressive, forward thinking, came to the district and said, hey, we want to partner with you. We're training our officers on how to respond to an active shooter, and we want to train your staff. We want everybody to be prepared. And that's what kicked this off in our district. So again, we started this in 2017. So we created these trainings age appropriate for students because, quite honestly, there weren't any out there that were for younger children. There's mostly, you may have heard, ALICE trainings for more older adults or businesses. But we took the information that we learned from the police and from our research, and we created these trainings. So what our school resource officers will tell you is that the first thing that we should try to do is to run. Now, what we tell our teachers and our staff is we trust you to make the decision. We trust your judgment. You are the professionals. You know your students. You know your classroom. You know the school site. And based on the information that you have at the time, you make a decision as to whether or not you're going to try and get your students out of the classroom setting or the playground setting and off the campus, or if you're going to pull them in and hide and lock down. And it's not going to be an easy decision, but if you have enough information to get away from the threat, that's the best situation. If you don't have enough information to get away from the threat, then you lock down. And that's what you need to do. And then we get into what it looks like if the threat gets into your area. But every campus has a secondary location. The principals and the staff know that secondary location. They know that ideally they will try to get to that secondary location. And we will be communicating with you parents through Parent Square. So if you have Parent Square, great. If you don't, please download it on your phone or your computer, because this is a way in which principals communicate with you and the districts communicates with you. So we would be pushing out messages, and you can check off the SMS text messaging if you want to get text messages, and we'd be trying to tell you what was going on with the information that we had. So run is the first option. And we tell the students and the staff, you need to leave your items and think about all the different escape routes that we've discussed. Think about the room setting. Is there an adjoining room? Is there only one entrance or two entrances? Is this a classroom where they can go out of a window? What are the closest exits near that classroom, or where else can they hide? So these are conversations that we're having, and that's why it's important to have this training every year, because the students' setting changes every year. They're in a different classroom. They may be at a different school. They matriculate to the middle school, which has more entrances and exits, and then the high school, 56 acres. So not only is it to remind them to, run, hide, fight, but it's also thinking through, okay, I'm here now. What does that look like in this setting? And so we also ask them to talk to their families and talk to you parents about what that looks like in terms of if they have to run off campus, where would they go? What are some possible places they could go? Do they live close enough to go home? What about a friend, a local business? At that point, we do believe that our community would come together and help out any students who are off campus, trying to get away from the threat. The idea is to go with your staff member, but who knows if the staff member is able to take the student. So that's what this slide is about, to really talk about those options off campus.
And Dr. Wesley, I want to let you know we have 2 questions, but when we get to a pause point, we'll answer those.
Okay. And Jenna or Rex, if you want to jump in on any of these, if I'm missing any information, please do.
You're doing good.
Okay, thanks. Hide is the second best option. And so if we're not able to get off the campus, then we instruct our staff members to hide. And hide means locking the door, barricading the door, covering windows. Again, classroom settings could be different, turning off the lights. Secondary level, phones could be an issue. Asking students please silence their cell phones. We know realistically they'll probably be calling their parents or texting or on social media, but we don't want to draw any attention to the setting. So we explain in this training how important that is to silence their phones, even though we know they're communicating. Lie on the floor, that helps protect them from any, bullets that could possibly be coming through. Try to remain silent. And if they're outdoors, think about all the different ways in which they can protect themselves while they're hiding, whether it be in a bathroom or behind a tree or near a brick wall, just trying to get out of the way. So be aware of what those possibilities may be. If you've been on our campuses, you've probably seen this 1, 2, 3 lockdown latch. We have them on almost all of our doors. The doors we don't have them on are the ones that push in as opposed to out. But the great thing about this door is this lock is most of our doors have the push bar panic button, and you have to, in order to unlock it, you have to stick your key in, and so this saves time. So we tell our teachers we bought this so that you can keep your door in the locked position, and then this allows you to prop your door open. So if somebody needs to come in, like a principal or another teacher during the school day, they can do that. But if we need to lock down quickly, you simply 1, 2, 3 lift up the middle knob, pull it to the right, and put it back down, and then pull the door shut. And we ask them to have students practice that, demonstrate that, because the teacher may say, "Hey, someone locked that door." So that's the purpose of the 1, 2, 3 lock. And we installed those when we initially pushed this training out back in 2017-18, and we still have them today. The last option, and again, this is for our grades 4 through 8 at the high school. We have a slide on fight, but to distract the intruder. And the idea is to really obstruct their line of vision or deter their ability to utilize a weapon. And so we first tell the staff members, you should be aware of where your fire extinguisher is. And we tell them how to use the fire extinguisher, because it would be a great way to distract an intruder by spraying that fire extinguisher. If anyone has ever had to activate a fire extinguisher, you know that it could choke somebody out and keep them from being able to see. So that's one way. Backpacks, chairs, anything that's going to distract or keep an intruder from utilizing a weapon or being able to see clearly would be fair game in this case. And it's really just about not giving up, ultimately. So let's have our school resource officers talk about what happens when they arrive, what that looks like, and then let's answer some questions.
When we arrive on at the scene, it's going to be pretty chaotic. We're going to have 2 teams, an arrest team and a rescue team. Our main objective when we first come on campus is to find the threat and neutralize it. From there, we'll start triaging those that are injured. We're going to do a sweep of the entire campus, locate those that are injured, and start triaging them. Obviously, we'll have fire and ambulance on scene, and we'll triage in the appropriate areas. And from there, we'll begin our investigation. The campus will be completely locked down until we complete this investigation, and efforts will be made through the coordination of the district staff and our command posts to reunite the parents with their students.
So what we want to also add is, as Officer Rex shared, that it could be possible we have injured students or staff. So another training that we do as well, we've done, and we're going to come back and retrain, is with our trauma kits. And because of our strong partnership with Redondo Beach Police Department and their Redondo Beach Foundation and the Kings, actually, they purchased red backpack trauma kits for every teacher, and also trauma kit duffels for main areas like, for instance, a cafeteria, library, etc. So we'll be coming back around after this training to re-engage new teachers and retrain teachers who've been here and train newer teachers on how to use the trauma kit. So Jenna, can you just share a little bit about the trauma kit training?
Yeah, so the main training behind that, I don't know if any of you have heard or familiar with the Stop the Bleed campaign, but the theory behind it is that the main cause of death for many injuries is loss of blood. So a lot of the items that are inside the trauma kits are for that very purpose. We have tourniquets, we have different blood clotting agents, we have chest seals, we have just basic first aid equipment, splints, bandages and stuff like that. So the teachers are trained on how to use a tourniquet properly. And the theory behind that is that, one of the previous slides mentioned that sometimes these instances could last up to 15 minutes. And so if a teacher or staff is barricaded in a classroom with students, there could possibly be somebody that's injured. And so the teachers are trained on how to, to the best of their ability, treat the wounds of the people that are injured in the classroom.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Let's answer some questions.
Yeah. So the first question, and I can take some of these to Dr. Wesley. The first question is, can we opt our children out of this training? And the answer is no. Just like we would not opt our children out of a fire drill, we would not opt them out of the Great California Shakeout. This is part of our safety training, and this is how we keep our schools safe. I want to reiterate something that Dr. Wesley said earlier in the training, earlier in our presentation, is that we customize these trainings. They look very, very different. If you have a child who's in the primary grades in elementary versus the upper grade versus middle school, which is what we're looking at today, versus high school. And that's a really big part of the delivery and the training that our teachers do with our kids to make sure that it is age appropriate. Obviously, this is not a conversation that any of us got into teaching to want to have at our school sites, but we would rather err on the side of all students be prepared than one student not know what to do in the time of a crisis.
I also want to add, though, the reason why we're sharing this with you, and I just saw a question pop up about when is the training. Just to reiterate, the principal will send a letter to all parents at least a week before the training, and will include the PDF of the training. So if you're an elementary school parent, you will see the PDF of the TK through 3 training and the 4 through 5 training. This way, parents can review the training, have a conversation with their students in advance of the training or after the training. Also, parents can reach out to the school site. The counselor is a good person to start with, or the teacher, and say, hey, I'm a little worried about my child. And we can, instead of opting out, we can provide a smaller setting for the student. Maybe they need an individual training just to kind of talk things through with them based on needs. So we're willing to work with students who, you may feel as a parent need extra attention when giving this training. Just notify your principal or your counselor, your teacher, and share those concerns. But you'll see with the training, it's really just talking to students about being aware, thinking through possibilities. But what we don't want is for students to not understand the plan, and then when something happens, they freeze up. And here's the hard reality, and this is really hard to say, but you need to understand what we tell our teachers. If you are a teacher and you know that you can get your students off safely, that's the goal. But if you have one little kid who's freezing up, isn't aware, isn't cooperating, or you may have to leave them. You may have to barricade them in the room and leave. And this is why we want the students to understand we need you to follow directions. We need to get you out safely, or we need you to be quiet because we're trying to avoid an intruder. It's a tough reality, but we know that if students are prepared, we're more likely to save lives and get everyone out safely, thinking worst case scenario.
Absolutely. So Dr. Wesley, next question is, do long-term substitutes and other subs receive this training? And what about non-classroom teachers like staff?
Oh, so this is a great question. A a lot of the non-school staff do, and for those that don't, we will loop back around. Our primary focus right now are our teachers, because then our teachers are going to be training their students. Now, when you're hired with our district, including our substitutes, in order, we do what's onboarding, but in order to complete the onboarding, they have to watch the video, which we're going to show momentarily, and they have to go through the PowerPoint. So
Great.
they have that the information before they begin. But it was brought to my attention last night. We had a sub, it was a great reminder, and this is why we do this, tell me that she was hired, before 2016. And so I was like, oh yeah, actually we didn't implement to 2017. So we need to reach out to our subs who've been in the district for all these years and connect them with the training. So we will do that. And this is why we do these trainings, to remind ourselves. I saw a question pop up about the 1, 2, 3 lock, and someone mentioning that it isn't, their child said, oh, it's rusted, it's not useful. So when we do these trainings, we tell the teachers, listen, this is the time to make sure your blinds all work or your lock works. If it doesn't, put in a work order so we can get all this fixed. We've told our maintenance and operations team that there's going to be work orders, because not only are we doing the training, we have to make sure that, we're ready to go. If your key doesn't work to open the gate, then let's get that fixed. This is the time to assess when we're doing these trainings, to make sure our environment is ready, because we need to be ready. So all of these things that you're sharing, again, if it's specific to your school, a quick email to the principal helps. But we are telling the teachers to check and make sure that the functionality of their room is up to par.
Absolutely. And we also train all volunteers. If you are a PTA member, if you do hands-on art, if you are doing garden or nutrition, this is part of the volunteer paperwork that you would do. So your school sites would show the video with the volunteers before they get started. The next question is probably more for our resource officers. What additional security measures, in addition to this training, are we doing at our school sites, such as patrolling? We talked about the doors and we talked about the 1, 2, 3 lock, but maybe Officer Yap or Officer Wolfinger can talk about how they are proactive in patrolling our campuses.
So our main job is to attend to the schools. And so that's in a variety of different ways. Basically on a daily basis, Officer Yap and I are partners, and we patrol basically every campus. We are either on campus or we are patrolling the exterior, just providing extra patrol and safety, checking locks. Many times we'll find gates that we secure, and just making sure the area around the campus is safe. The high school has additional security guards. I think that was part of the question as well, that we are in close communication with. We're in close communication with every administrator on every campus. They have our direct cell phones. They can ask us questions at a moment's notice. Many times they don't even have to call dispatch because we're available to them. So we have a really close relationship with them and are extremely familiar with every campus in this district.
We also check in with school staff, let them know that we're there, and address any issues. If there are any suspicious people or vehicles in or around the area, we'll take note of that and look for them and just make sure the security is not compromised.
Great. So the next question is probably more specific to our elementary schools. And the question is really addressing why our elementary school main office doors unlocked. Have we considered a buzzer system for the elementary sites? And I will say this is a tough question. It's a question that we've talked about quite a bit, because there's a balance. We want to make sure that our community and our parents are welcome and can access our front office. But we also have some measures that we've also put into place for our front office. We have a giant shield that our front office staffs could use if necessary. I was an elementary principal for 8 years, and every year we would do a comprehensive site assessment. I'd walk the sites with our resource officers and our police chief. And one of the things that, this is a question we would ask, and every time when we would walk our campuses, really the likelihood of the threat coming into the front office is actually the least likely. It's more likely to come from a different part of the campus. And so that's why this training is so important. Dr. Wesley, did you want to add anything about front doors?
Well, I just want to add that we actually structurally did change our entrances to our 2 middle schools. So if you are a middle school parent currently and you've been to the office, you know you have to enter to the right of the big blue gate. But prior to us doing this in 2017, you actually would have to enter through the blue gate and then you turn and enter through the other doors. So you had to go on campus to get in. So we literally rebuilt the entrance for this purpose so that people have to go to the front office to get on campus. We understand the front office is our most vulnerable setting. And you may recall or not that we had a committee a couple of years back prior to COVID, led by our superintendent, called ESP, Ensuring Safety Proactively. And a lot of great things came out of that. One of them was the shield that Dr. Wilds was referring to. And we actually had someone come in and demonstrate and show us how it could protect staff from bullets. And so our staff members in the office have those shields. So it's just a matter of us, again, reminding them of this tool that they have just to buy time. Someone asked about buzzers. Again, everything's on the table. So we've discussed the possibility of buzzers. For those of you at the high school, we have piloted an app. Someone asked, well, how do they notify there's a problem? So we do currently have an app. We're assessing its effectiveness. It's called the Titan app. It allows staff members to signal an alert, immediately. So obviously you got to be near a buzzer hardware to buzz. But if you have an app, you can just automatically send an alert either to district administration or police. So that's something we're either going to continue to roll out to the other schools or figure out another way to communicate. So there's a lot of things we're still discussing in terms of safety. Just trying to answer some of the questions.
Absolutely. So there's another question. We had a few people pop on late and they were asking about the primary training for students in grades like TK through 3rd grade. And the answer is grades TK to 3rd grade do not get specific run, hide, fight. Their training is involved about situational awareness, listening to your teacher, following directions. If the teacher says we move, we move. If the teacher says we start moving desks in front of the door, we start moving desks in front of the door. So theirs is really centered on when there's a time that it's super critically important that you listen to your teacher. We need you to practice that. Even down into our even preschool babies, practice with a long rope, with a handle. If the teacher says grab it, they grab it, and they practice just walking around campus. So
you will have access to these trainings. One, we are recording this. Just a reminder, we're recording this. We will post this on our website, and we will post the PDFs of the trainings. There's a TK through 3, there's a 4 through 5, there's a 6 through 8, a middle school, and a high school. Also, your principal will email them to you prior to the training with the training date. So parents will have access to the trainings.
One more question, Dr. Wesley. Here's a question. How are teachers on a school site, for example, communicated from the school, by or from the school, if there is a threat on campus? So do we use intercoms? Do we use text? You had mentioned briefly about the app. Do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, actually, again, things that we are reminding staff about. So there's many different ways, and it also could be depend on the situation. So every elementary school has a teacher in charge. We have counselors, we have psychologists, and they are given access to the intercom system, where they could send out a communication via the intercom system to the whole school. It could, depending on, again, the situation, could be via email. We understand that teachers aren't checking emails during the day. It's not the most effective way, which is why we looked at the app, which would send an alert. But there's pros and cons to everything. You have to download the app, and you can't force staff to download an app. So the app can be downloaded on their computer. But the most effective way would be over the intercom, to share that there's a threat on campus and to give as much information as possible so they can make that decision to run or hide. And so the intercom is the way that we generally announce to staff about threats on campus. And we've even had some. We've had some schools where we've had to shelter in place, and the principal had to get on the intercom and say, "Hey, we need everyone to shelter in place. Let's lock the doors because there's a situation off campus." So that's how we communicate. So I'm thinking we could show the video, because once we show the video, then that does end the training aspect of it, but we're willing to stay on and answer questions. So for those who have things that if they can't stay, they can at least see the video. So I'm going to queue up the video. And you know what? Hold on. I want to share this and make sure you can hear the sound. So just give me 1 minute to stop the sharing and then share again. Click audio. So we have this, can you guys see the video? Okay, I'll make it larger in a minute. We had this video created back when we originally started this training, and it's customized to our district. You may even recognize the setting, and it's a reiteration of a lot of the stuff that we shared today. So again, we do show this to 4th through 12th grade students. Here we go.
The Redondo Beach Unified School District is entrusted to provide a safe environment for students and appropriate training for threats they may face. This short animation covers intruder preparedness and how to follow the run, hide, and fight advice. Remember, these strategies work outside of the school as well. Maintain good situational awareness at all times. Understand and accept that bad incidents can happen. However, learn what to do in these situations. It helps you be prepared and, importantly, to stay calm. Staying calm lets our instincts work and our brain think clearly, putting a plan in place to keep us safe. If you think you hear shooting or get an intruder alert via the app, react immediately. Better to be safe than sorry. Get behind cover. Stay calm. If exposed in the open, lie flat. Then look for better cover and crawl to it, if safe to do so. Take a moment and check where the threat is coming from. Look for other people moving away from danger. Then run, moving into better cover if safe to do so, or head to a safe location, including off the school property. If you hear shooting when in a building, move away from the windows and keep low. If it is safe to do so, run. Check that it is clear before exiting a room or building. If it isn't safe to run away, hide. Lock the door using the 1-2-3 lockdown latch. Barricade the door and turn your phone to silent. Make sure you can't be seen through ground floor windows. Keep low. When in a safe location, check in through the app. When police officers respond, let them open doors. Make sure your hands are empty and clearly visible. Follow their instructions. Their job is to eliminate the threat first and treat you second. In a worst-case scenario where you have been unable to run or hide, and where you are confronted with an imminent threat, consider distracting or disrupting the perpetrator to aid your escape. Throw a heavy object such as a book or chair, or spray or throw a fire extinguisher at them. Always attempt to run away if possible. However, if there are no other options, and as a last resort, work as a group, commit to action, and fight to overwhelm them. In a life-threatening situation, it is teamwork and preparation that will protect and save lives. Remember, run, hide, or fight.
Okay, I'm going to stop. Now, I do want to share because somebody asked earlier, can we opt our student out? And we have allowed parents say, hey, I just don't want my child to watch the video, although you can imagine that's a little tough to do a training and then say, hey, you know, such and such, go to the office. But maybe that can be pre-planned, that they get the training from somewhere else. But the rest of the training we feel is appropriate for the grade level and the age level, so that students are aware of the plan they follow the plan, and they have an awareness of all the options. We think that's important. We just don't want them to be caught off guard. And again, we know that this is not an easy situation to talk about, and we're not here to frighten students or traumatize students. We've really put a lot of thought into the training and really talking through feelings and reactions, so that students understand this is, again, about them responding appropriately. We're always open to input, but we have done this training since 2017, minus COVID. So we can answer more questions.
Yeah, a couple more questions. One is just an easy one. Is this presentation being recorded? Yes, we are recording it, so you can share it with everybody. We'll make sure that we add it to the letter that goes out to families, and we'll post it on the link on our website. So that question came in a couple times. One question that came through, is there a consideration of possibly a button or a trigger in the office that would notify via immediate notification to RBPD, similar to what banks have? And that question is kind of similar to how we answered earlier. Everything is something we are constantly doing, kind of ongoing assessments and safety assessments as we work with RBPD. And that's absolutely something we can consider. But what's important to note is that we don't want the main office solely relying on the one source that calls RBPD. So all of our teachers, anybody on staff has the ability to call 911. We trust in their judgment. And in fact, we want anyone who sees a danger to be the immediate. We don't want people to wait to call the office, to call the principal. It's too many steps. We want anybody to be able to make that call and call our officers when we need it.
Yes, we have empowered our staff to be able to make that call. And if for some reason it's not a threat, that's okay. We don't want there to be a delay. And so we reiterate this. And we just also want to share that in terms of the buzzer situation, again, for those of you who may have logged on late, we also have an app. The video talked about the app. The app would be, we currently have it. We've rolled it out at the high school, so we're trying to determine, based on feedback, should we move forward with the app and roll that out at the other schools, or should we go with the buzzer? The advantage of the app is you just have to have your phone, and you can alert anywhere. You could be on the yard, in the bathroom, wherever, and you can send an alert to the police, to the fire, to district administration, to your principal. Or do we want to go with the buzzer, or both? So again, we're always thinking of safety protocols. Many different things have occurred because of this training and partnership with RBPD. For instance, when we were rebooting in 2018, and people were asking about, well, if I run, I need to be able to access the gates. I don't have gate keys. So we went and rekeyed the gate key so that all the teachers on that campus staff have their classroom key also opens the gate key. So that was another change that we made to give them that access and that ability to open the gate and run off campus if they needed to do that. So again, we're noting input, and we're constantly thinking of ways to improve our safety on campus.
Next question, Dr. Wesley. Does the training address lunch, recess, all those times where kids are not sitting quietly in their classroom with their teacher?
Yes, we had a slide about that. So we do ask the teachers, and we reiterate that, to talk about what this looks like if you're out of the classroom setting. And you may remember the slide that showed, even if you're off school campus, what if it's a weekend and you're at a park? What if you're at the movie theater? What if you're at a restaurant? So the whole idea of the training is to really be initially aware of your surroundings. And when you go to a place, think about, where could I hide? Where could I run? Where can I protect myself? And what if you're in the bathroom? We specifically talk about that, our school resource officers and our teachers, about how to advise a student if they're in the bathroom. How do they check to make sure where the threat is? Should they hide in the bathroom? Should they not? It's based on their awareness as to whether or not they know where the threat is. If they know where the threat is and they think they can get into a classroom and safe, great. If they think they can get off campus because they see other kids running off campus, sort of like the video showed, great. If they don't, if they can't make that determination, hide in the bathroom. So we do talk about that. And what are ways you can utilize this if you're off campus? It's important for us to know that our students are learning about strategies to protect themselves, for life. it's not just whether or not they're at Toledo or Burrell, because they're going to be at Adams or Paris and eventually the high school and then in life.
There's several questions are similar around the TK to 3, a kind of 3rd grade kind of age group. And
I put that one up. Maybe I could just pull it up and.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and while you're doing that, Dr. Wesley, again, I was the principal of an elementary school for a number of years, and our teachers are very, very skilled in having these conversations. And when they're having these kind of practices, when are some times, and oftentimes they'll ask the kids, when are some times that would be important for everyone to listen to the teacher? If there's a fire drill, right? We're practicing all of these other drills. Well, sometimes there might be another time, maybe there's a car chase down on Prospect and the police officers need us to stay inside. So we're all going to listen and practice that. So they're talking about, kids are sharing maybe scenarios that they may have seen. And when they practice, they'll go out and actually practice the moving and following directions.
Okay, I'm not sure. Can you see this?
It's starting to share. Yes.
Okay. Let me just move this out. Okay. Slideshow. Some of the slides are the same.
And for those of and for those of you who logged on late, as the schools are getting their reboot training, your principals will be sending you a notice and an email letter letting you know, as well as the actual training your child will be receiving, the PowerPoint, so that you will know at least 1 week in advance of the training that's going to be happening on your school site. So it's there's not a specific day. It's not like the Great California Shakeout where everyone's going to do it on the same day. It'll vary by school site.
So some of the slides are similar to the grades 4 through 5. What are ways I can calm myself? This is a slide that's strictly for TK through 3. Teachers talking about, oh, when you're stressed, what are some ways that you can calm yourself down? Maybe it's closing your eyes, counting backwards by 10. Maybe it's breathing slowly. So a lot of just figuring out how could you possibly, or how would it feels like to be scared? How do we calm ourselves down when we're scared? How do we create a situation where we can listen to the teacher? Why is it important to listen to directions? So these slides are prompting discussions that teachers are having with their students. Why do we need to listen? Why do we need to follow instructions, especially in an emergency situation? We want you to stay safe. This is a similar slide I think you've seen. Again, we're going to do some listening training. What if there was a fire? You might hear the fire alarm ring. Listen to your teacher, stay calm. What if there was an earthquake? So it kind of goes through these other drills that they already are used to. Again, listen to your teacher, take cover, stay calm. You see a lot of the repetitive directions so that they know to listen, stay calm, follow, leave things behind. What if we need to lock down? Again, listen, calm. We're not talking about active shooters. We're not talking about intruders. Like a coyote, which we know. I just was driving down the street, I saw a sign, beware of the coyote. We know that's been an issue before. So again, listen, be calm, follow your teacher. You kind of see the repetitive. What if I'm not with my teacher? Stay calm, find an adult, follow the adult's instructions, or remain in a safe place until an adult comes. Again, this is going to be more in-depth conversation. The teachers are the experts. They know how to reiterate. And then let's review. What are the common steps? Let's stop, let's look, let's listen. So this is the TK one. It's really just about following instructions, listening, staying calm, and kind of reinforcing some of the drills we already do, like fire, earthquake, and sometimes lockdowns, without mentioning intruder, shooter, or any of that. So we hope that helps some of our younger parents. And again, we will post these PDFs online. I'll make sure we get them up there tomorrow with this video, and your principal also will email it out. Again, want to reiterate to our parents, we will be communicating with you via Parent Square. That's how we communicate now. So please make sure you have access to that. It's how your principal communicates, updates, information, testing, just about everything. You have the ability to click and get text messages, but we would send the information that we have. We would tell you where to go to relocate with your student. We would tell you the information that we have at the time. We know that could be scary and frustrating. We may just have to say, hey, the school's in a lockdown, more information to come. Please be ready for the next message. And as soon as we get information, this is what's going on. This is when our school's clear. So we will communicate with parents via Parent Square. Any other questions for us or our resource officers while you have us? If you have questions, we first ask that you reach out to your school principal. They have been to the training. They're leading the trainings with their teachers, and they know their campus. They've done the walkthroughs. So sometimes a lot of the questions are site specific. And if you have questions for us, you can email us. I'm going to again put my email in the chat in Wesley at RBUSD. And I will either respond or I'll ask the principal to respond to you, depending on the question. I don't know if there's any more questions. If not, we will.
There's one more, Dr. Wesley. I just want to reiterate. There's a question about students with special needs.
Okay.
And obviously, every student with special needs is different. If we have students that we know need special accommodations, they might need some additional care and handling. We have students who are nonverbal. So those are all ways that we practice, particularly with our staff. So our staff know how to identify those students to make sure that they are safe and taken care of as well.
And this would also be a great question for the teacher, because the teachers know their students. They know what's in the IEP. They know the particular needs. They know how to instruct the aides. And so if you have more specific questions, a teacher would be a good person to talk to there, and obviously in these trainings. And also they understand the sensitivity behind giving these trainings, and they know to modify it as needed based on the students who are the audience. Okay, so
all the questions for now.
This is formally ends our presentation. We thank you for logging on this evening. We thank you for your partnership. And again, please let other parents know that we will have this video posted and the trainings. And we hope you have a good evening. Thank you.